Philip here, going to talk about the storyboards that I started in March 2013, a few months before production actually began. Just I storyboarded the beginning, just all the way to the very last frame of the movie. But I was very obsessed with the way this movie was going to look and how the way it was going to play out, and I just remember spending hours on this. Because it was a movie I felt really strongly about, and I didn't want to compromise on a goddamn thing. And unfortunately, this whole beginning, the first scene of the movie, it was the only compromise, because we originally had it as the first girl would find another surviving flower, and she would drag her along until they got split up by these hands that come out of nowhere, and so she's left alone again to kind of feel her way out of the space, and she has to go through this wall of bodies. So the gist of the final scene is still in the movie. It's just it was just kind of formatted differently. And then here we got the crawl space, which again was only the second compromise, which was originally there was this thing called the autopsy theater that would happen to her whenever she touched a piece of her own gore underneath the house. It would flash back to this, which is essentially it's the killer auctioning off pieces of her organs, and they're just bidding on it and everything. So slightly rewrote this into the scene as just the killer doing it himself, and these strange figures in the screen sort of watching, and are they real, are they not? I like that idea. It's open to interpretation. And we have rats here. That was that was a small just another small compromise where, hey, I got 3 cats, I can't be fucking having rats running around on set. Would have been cool, but just can't do it. So up until the first day of production was the crawl space. What you're seeing now is day 3 with Anna in the bathroom, and everything was basically done from this point on out in big master shots, wide shots, total coverage, where the camera would run for 10 minutes at a time. For the first 2 days of production, we were doing frame by frame, and as you see, it's like 6 panels equals maybe 30 seconds. So I was setting up all these really elaborate shots, but they were taking forever. So it was like 8 hours plus into the night, and we were still shooting. So when it came time to shoot the bathroom footage, I decided, let's just see frame 153, how it's a wide shot. I ended up doing most of this scene in just big wide shots, and then I would come back in later and do these closer shots on her face. And the method actually led into how we finished the rest of the movie. But again, it's just it brings a smile to my face when I got to get into this laundromat stuff later. I'm just grinning. It makes me happy that I was able to write something and then transcribe that into a visual component, which is the storyboards, and then use the storyboards as really my scripts. I threw away the script. I ended up really not even dealing with the words. I would use my binder with all the storyboards as my place to say, okay, to get everyone literally on the same page, to say, okay, well, we're shooting this, we're doing this is how this happens. And it would be, the Bible of the movie. And then so just seeing all that sort of, I know every frame here in its live action form, and it makes me just really proud of what we were able to accomplish. Another compromise is the idea of biting off more than I can chew. These skeletons, they begin to move in a stop-motion animation, Ray Harryhausen type way. And the very beginning stage, I was like, it won't be that hard to do. But the thing was, I bought these 90-pound Bucky skeletons, like you see in there. And to make those move at all in a stop-motion type of way was impossible. Could not do it. So I just stuck to changing positions and whatnot. The other compromise It's so funny how I start this fucking thing saying, I have to compromise on anything, but just small things. Here, she originally breaks her way out of the wall with a pipe. In the finalized version, she just sort of throws herself through the wall. And then we had these little death flashback clips. Each girl, after this scene, would get a glimpse of how they died. Now we're in the dining room scene. One thing I wish I really wrangled up some fucking flies and had them hanging from the walls and everything with the fly paper. But for one reason or another, it just never happened. But yeah, most of this it was long master takes. Some elements slightly changed around, but this was a fun shoot. Disgusting shoot, but in some way it was fun. Actually, it wasn't. I almost died. So yeah, this is God, the scene, just the pig was really the main focal point of this entire scene because it smelled so bad. And there are some deleted portions from this with the sheet and everything, and I don't know, yeah, everything you're seeing here, there's not much to comment on because it actually made it. And just rare, very rare. I guess those last two frames at the end was something. This was a very, very difficult effect to pull off, just to have the bloating. Originally in the script, when she eats all this food, her stomach actually is bloated. It's huge, and she begins to kind of burst at her autopsy scenes. And we tried to pull that effect off by simply loading up this pocket on set, live action. Tried to load up her chest with all this gut stuff, and tried to blow up her stomach like a balloon, but it ended up ripping and went down her legs. And some of those shots of it going down her legs is actually in the final cut of the movie. So that was an effect mishap that Ronnie actually made work. Did I say that properly? He made that effect work by simply having a brilliant editorial nature to himself, instinct of editing. And here's another major effect, one after the other, where she opens herself up, reaches inside, and feels nothing. Another major day, and I was just dreading this whole entire process. But this scene was always in my head in various stories and various comic book incarnations and strips that I did. I always had this idea of somebody who had an autopsy incision who would somehow reclaim their guts by simply stuffing it all back inside themselves and sewing themselves up. And the idea was in my head for so many years, and finally got a chance to actually do it. And it ended up being one of the more poetic, beautiful scenes of the movie. And simply, it's just a matter of sometimes you can live many years as an artist with that one visual in your head, and you don't know how you're going to do it and why you have to do it. But you get the chance eventually. So, again, I'm happy that this came together the way it did. So originally, the biggest thing was these girls were supposed to meet with the killer one by one, on a face to face. Watch the TV, just the killer and the girl, and after they watched the death, they would disappear, and the next girl would enter the room. So Colette, my wife, had the idea of, don't do it that way. It's too messy. Just have them all sit at the table together, cut the killer out of the scene altogether, and just have the girls watch on the TV. And now we have this really formatted, choreographed way of ending the movie, and I loved the way this came together. So all this stuff you're seeing right here is the work of my wife, just being a genius. Right here, originally we had Tanya on the train tracks shooting up, and then it just kind of cuts to some guy bashing her in the face with a bottle. We don't see the killer, but we shot all the death flashbacks at the end of production, so we couldn't really do elaborate things anymore. So we just simplified it to her in a bathroom stall with a gun in her mouth. Now, the laundry room is one of the biggest things that I kind of feel like I wish I would have done. But the thing is She's a domestic batterer case. She's been beaten on by her husband, boyfriend, and she's fixing herself up, totally neglecting her baby. And suddenly out of nowhere, she is just the bathroom's covered in blood and she's missing. And then we see someone dragging her body out. No laundromat would let us film that. So we had to simplify it again and make her just in a car. And then the movie simply ends with the last girl lying behind the dumpster. The idea of all the flashbacks getting shorter and shorter and more horrific. And then so we leave Makari, and that's the end. With the exception of that last final shot.